Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to this early morning edition of the Lakers Lounge. I am Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine, is it Wednesday?
Yes. Apparently.
Okay, it is Wednesday. And that is Kirk Henderson of Mavs Moneyball, of Pod Maverick. Kirk, today we're going to be talking about Luka's season. I've been doing this kind of player and review stuff, and I feel like I didn't see enough of Luka to fully tell that story, so I'm bringing you in here to help me out. How you holding up?
Sure. Okay. Summer with the kids, already ready for my kids to go back to school, and it's May 28th. So I got a little bit of time.
Before we went live, Miles dropped the biggest deuce of his life.
Hey, so it's good to get it out. Good to get out of your system early.
Yeah,
makes your day more pleasant.
You couldn't have done this 15 minutes ago, And then on top of that, I'm running around the house and just closing doors to make sure that I keep him kind of corralled. And now I have my 5, almost 6-year-old daughter, just kind of making sure he doesn't wreak too much havoc. So we'll see what kind of hellscape I walk back into after the show. But yeah, we got to dive right into it. Obviously Luka started the season in Dallas. You had, I still think, the most shocking trade in NBA history take place. He comes to the Lakers, and I thought he was still clearly trying to get back into shape because of the calf strain that he suffered, and that cost him a big chunk of the season, and seems like played a big role in getting him traded also, weirdly. So you have that going on, and then the Lakers are starting to kind of turn a corner, and Luka I thought was really kind of starting to find some chemistry with some guys. Then LeBron gets hurt, then Rui gets hurt, and then the postseason starts, they get their asses kicked, and now here we stand. But I want to start with what you saw from Luka before the calf strain.
Well, that's actually where this starts to be a little bit of a problem, because there really wasn't a before the calf strain.
Yeah, it did happen early.
He's strained this calf 5 times. Now, I think this season you could really argue, and if you ever have Jeff Stotts of In Street Clothes on, he could probably explain this to you better just from a basketball medical perspective. But with like a soft tissue injury like this, I don't ever really think a player gets a chance for it to heal. What I remember, and I remember hearing this and thinking, what the fuck? Because I should have asked if I could curse. Oh well, too late.
Go for it.
He got kicked in the calf during the very first preseason practice. Now that I have confirmed that this is a thing that happened. When I first heard
Nico?
that, I see, and you make a joke like that, it's like, who gets kicked in the calf? Like, really, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And
that's often what people say when they tear their Achilles. They think.
But McMahon said he was quite literally kicked in the calf while they were scrimmaging or something.
Yeah,
and that's put him down this path, which he is still on today. And that one was kind of considered the third calf strain. Okay, Then he comes back. And when he came back, he was just not in cardio shape. Now, there's kind of, when you talk about Luka, I think you need to talk about him from both an injury management point of view and then from a physical fitness point of view. And the two are linked, but one, the physical fitness, the being in shape over a period of time, that's not something that comes together in a single season. You should use James Harden and Nikola Jokic as your kind of way stations there, your points of view of what Luka needs to strive to, because he needs to get into the kind of constant cardio shape where he can play 42 minutes a game 75 times a season plus playoffs.
Yeah.
That's not something that happens in a year. That's like, and then it's tied directly to the injury, because those two guys never really had injuries, to where if he's out for a substantive period of time, I'm not sure if you've ever strained your calf. I actually hurt mine a week after Luka hurt his in the Christmas Day game. And it's May, and I am still having small, and I'm not a professional athlete, but it's like just odd things that move and travel up your leg, and you worry about other stuff. So I don't think Luka ever really got off the ground this year. And you could see it in elements where he would have 3 to 4 really good game stretches, and then he would just look washed beyond belief. It's like, what is going on here? Yeah. So there's just a lot to delve into, a lot to over analyze, because like the funny part to me is like, even when he's bad, he's still pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing too with Luka, and I'm glad that you used the Jokic analogy here, but Luka's weight really fluctuates, right? Like right now we're on Body Mass Watch 2025, as there's a picture of him in that white t-shirt at watching Real Madrid play. And I think as somebody whose weight fluctuates a ton and always has, that was something I really had to stay on top of. And I think Jokic is a good example of somebody who like never looks in shape, but is in incredible shape.
Yes.
I would say that, that kind of conditioning, comes with a ton of work. And when you talk to anybody who covers Jokic, they say he puts in insane amounts of work throughout the year. Now, he did say after the season ended that he can't wait to drink a bunch of beer.
Or
same. And so, you have that going on, but yeah, with Luka, and the fact that any given game, I think a lot of it has to do with the haircut too, and the hairdo. Like he shows up.
He really needs. There's some aesthetic choices he could make, which would really lean into elements of like the Europeanness. Because like number one, he has a rough hair. He has a big head. This is a very important. Like his father looks
huge, dude.
He's a big person. He is built like Rob Gronkowski. He is just a big man. And then his head is like extra big. And his father, like the Jason Gallagher pointed out way back when, that his father looks like Mr. Incredible from a certain side angle. And it's like Luka is the Mr. Incredible's progeny. And it becomes one of these things where you can really think about it too much. And I think like the starting point is, yeah, he looks great right now. He's also not wearing a basketball uniform right now. And I can't, like, some NBA uniforms just don't flatter some people. Okay. Yeah. Then Lakers yellow, whatever highlight yellow that
especially
they have going on right now, really
the Lakers yellow on a white dude is not a great look.
It's just that, it looked who is the Mark Mattson? It looked bad on Mark Mattson way back in the day. And this is just somehow a very different situation. And so it's like you're thinking about this, and like if he can come into the season injury free, and that's hard because I think he's going to go play. Is it Eurobasket this summer?
Eurobasket, yep.
And you just worry. My co-host Josh Bowe in 2020. Okay, we're talking 5 years ago. After the bubble, this is before we knew they were going to speed up the NBA season. He was looking ahead and he was like, God, they're going to compress all these international tournaments. He goes, Luka's not going to have a summer off for like half a decade.
Yeah.
And they got eliminated from the playoffs early that one in 2023. And so he actually did have a pretty good break then. Getting eliminated from the playoffs now and going from roughly, what do you say? Like, let's just say May 1st to August. So you got
they
May.
Didn't make it to May. Yeah.
Right. So you got May, June, July, most of August, 4 months. 4 months is a pretty good break. And I think as we saw, he looked good. I think people have no idea how much body fat actually weighs. He has not dropped 20 or 30 pounds. He's dropped 10 pounds. Body fat covers you, but it doesn't actually weigh that much. It's like when,
muscle's heavier than
muscle's heavier. So it's like Luka's ideal playing weight for me, having watched him from when he was a teen, is probably 240 pounds. Now he's listed at 240, which kind of will drive me mad. No, he's weighing 255. I feel pretty confident. 255 to 260 at certain points because he wants to. He's a huge person. He has the ability to carry that bulk. And at the end of the day, whatever playing weight the Lakers and he come to agree upon, he has to find a way to stay injury free. I don't know how you do that with the soft tissue injuries, because again, he's hurting it on planting, like overuse of the plant foot, his right foot. The nickel and dime stuff that happens as you play, that's just part of it. And then I think he has to work his best to control some of his in-season habits. I mean, I've never been able to confirm certain things, but I do think that he was going home and having adult beverages. Yeah, he had a young baby. Like just him and mine are about the same age, and it's a stressful period. Even if you're rich and you have help, having a kid is stressful. And there was the injury, and he wasn't able to work out. Like the only real cardio you can do when you have a calf strain is swimming, and I don't see Luka Doncic getting in the pool. So it's like that's where they sort of ended up, and where you have enough time right now to go into the season and say, if he looks good early, you should be extraordinarily bullish.
Yeah.
And you're going to know within about 10 games. Now, is he still going to have games where he looks like ass and warmed over? For sure. He has quarters where he looks like that. And then the next quarter, he'll score 17. And you're like, what changed? Like, what do we do? I mean, he's a truly unique player who drives such fan passion because he is that good. That's the part that you just have to keep circling back to. I know fans of his that I'm friends with that are like super fans really hate the criticism of him. And I do too when talking about people, but it's just like, this is a guy who, when he is at his peak, I still firmly believe is the best player in the NBA. Like, he's that good. Yeah. And like, he's better than Shai Alexander. Like, let's just look at this guy's. I pulled this up because I wanted to be a jerk about this. SGA is playing, they played 4 Western Conference games. He's averaging 30.8 points, 4.8 rebounds, 8.3 assists, and a little under 2 steals. Pretty good stat line, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Luka Doncic, Western Conference finals last year, where he looked really not good. Okay.
Yeah.
He really didn't look good. 32.4 points, 9.6 rebounds, 8.2 assists, 2.2 steals, and 0.4 blocks. Like, he beats Shai in every element of the game. And it's not by a small margin. It's by a statistically significant margin. The only players he's on a comparable realm with, in my mind, are Giannis Antetokounmpo when he's at his peak, and Jokic. So he's that good to me.
Yeah. And that's the standard that you wind up having to hold him to, because he's capable of it. It's that meme where it's like, I fucked up and I am now very much needed at work. I really regret it.
That's right.
I blundered the actual phrasing there, but yeah, that's where I get kind of frustrated is I see what the guy is capable of. You kind of see what it's going to take for him to play at that level consistently. And now it's just a matter of like, if he does it consistently. And, Shaq did it for a few years, did it really, really well in Miami the 1 year, and then never did it again. So it's like, we'll kind of see. But I want to talk to you about what we saw from him in this postseason. And one of the things that really kind of stuck out to me was an over-reliance on Luka Ball, on, his usage rate was higher than it was in Dallas by quite a bit. And, this is taking place with a team that was supposed to have a diverse offensive approach with LeBron and with Austin. And, frankly, the offensive approach drove me crazy. And I don't think it's because it's Luka saying, no, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. I think it's because that's what kept on, kind of getting called as everybody gets used to each other. How did Dallas eventually find that balance of, because initially it was with Jalen Brunson, and then eventually it was with Kyrie Irving, where you had another ball dominant player on the court with him quite a bit. And they found better ways to have more of a diverse approach offensively than the Lakers did. What did you notice in that time that made that offense click the way that it did, and that led to the Lakers offense stalling out the way that it did in the first round, to whatever extent you watched the first round?
I did. And the Lakers ran into the problem of, when you don't have the vertical rim running threat, that limits a lot. When you pair that with Austin Reeves just slowly dying on the vine, like not choosing, but unfortunately having like the worst 5-game stretch of his season at the worst possible time, it compounds the issue. And it's what I kept thinking watching these games is like, if Reeves hit one more shot a game, it was like, because he was getting open threes that just weren't going down. And so I think that some of that stuff starts to self-correct if other players are playing to their potential. Now, you don't want to hear that when talking about a superstar, but that was the Lakers offense. And this just happens in the playoffs. All of your best attributes can sometimes get used against you. And the Wolves were just like, they're just big. And Redick, it took the Rudy Gobert game. Was it game 5 where he had 1,000 rebounds? The only reason that happened is because the Wolves couldn't hit a 3. Like, the Lakers were either going to die by the 3 or they were going to die by Rudy Gobert. Like, there was or both. And it's, you look at that in hindsight, it's like, oh, well, of course he, JJ made this choice. And it's the Lakers by that point in the year were just so limited. And one of the things that I do not support the Lakers in any way, shape, or form, but it was very odd to see the data and see the results after Luka got traded, where all of a sudden the Lakers were actually playing like they continued on this upward defensive trajectory in a way that didn't really make sense for the personnel. Then it's just some shooting luck at the right time. I don't know. That feels a little reductive and not fair to what the Lakers accomplished. But at the end of
it plays a role. It absolutely plays a role.
So your expectations get raised. And really what we saw in the playoffs was kind of what I think everyone was expecting to see. Maybe not quite so putrid, but an element of like, this team just doesn't have the horses to play a certain way. I don't think Luka needs to play a certain way. I really don't. The Mavericks, you asked a question about how did they get away with this and how did they, by the time Luka was traded, what made our fan base so mad is they had moved really far away from Luka Ball. They were not playing ISO heavy basketball. There was lots of team concepts. There was stuff that Kid hadn't even broken out yet. And we saw that later in the season. It kind of drove all of us crazy where it's like, why didn't you do this stuff? And he is capable of doing stuff off ball. He's not a moron. He did not get the ball at Real Madrid. They made him play off ball. Yeah. He was, you would give it to him in times and you would almost use him like a supercharged sniper to go in and be really effective in small spurts. So there's a path forward. Redick will find it, but I think it starts with a regular role man. Because, we don't necessarily need to get into the data, but Luka's rim rate this year was as worse as it's ever been. Some of that, I think you relay to the injury. Some of that you relay to his choices, because I think he likes shooting long threes. I think he likes taking 12 threes a game. Like, you can't underestimate that. And
he
then the last
step back.
So interesting to me, and I never got an answer for this. I asked a couple of data guys this are way smarter than me. It's like, well, he didn't have a really good rim rate in 2024 either. The only difference was he was throwing, like, the Mavericks had more lobs in the 2024 playoffs than like the 01 Lakers, which is crazy if you're an old person like we are. And so it's like that doesn't get factored into Luka's rim rate. So you get a guy that's there, he's placing the ball where it's supposed to be, just like LeBron does. And it's really something to watch. So I think that really alleviates a lot of the problem and opens up other elements of the offense.
Yeah, that's the Lakers' top priority. Maybe in a second we'll get to some of the trade rumors. Obviously, Gafford is on the Lakers' radar, and we'll see about those talks. But yeah, the last thing I kind of wanted to finish with here about Luka specifically is you mentioned the off-ball stuff and his willingness. To me, it kind of comes down to his screening, whether it's and just, I'm not saying he has to go out there and set Draymond Green illegal screens, but he's this giant dude and people bounce off of him naturally. If he just stands at the right spot on the court stationary, I feel like that opens up quite a few things for the Lakers, and most notably for him, because one thing that drives me crazy when I watch Giannis is how little he screens, and it's like, dude, if you just screened and got the ball in the short roll, you'd be unstoppable. And I don't know what it is about, kind of the modern player where they just they think it's beneath them to set screens. I'm not saying Luka is definitely saying this, but to me, the next kind of thing for him is, hey, could you just set a screen and flare out, and just that's going to command so much attention. So either you get an open, inherently step back three, or the whole defense moves and the whole side of the offense on the strong side is cleared out. What do you think about, do you think Luka will ever be an effective screener?
So let me ask you kind of a bigger picture question, because this is a very specific one, but I your question is, but did you read Tim McMahon's book?
Not yet.
Lakers fans, I want you to go read Tim McMahon's book, not just because he's my friend and I'm supporting an author, but there's so much to this book that what the Mavericks did with Luka from the very beginning, where they laid a foundation of treating him like a boy king. And in response, he acted in small parts like a boy king, but not near as bad as you might think. Okay. He's not a petulant guy when it comes to relationship stuff.
I was around him for the post game there in Dallas, and I didn't get any kind of sense from him. It was like, he seems like a dude.
I think sometimes players don't love playing with him, and I think that's a fair thing to say, but I think his teammates like him. Okay. And that matters. Okay. Cause you can work with somebody and not, and like them or hate them as long as you get the job done. But I think people like him. But one of the things that really came to pass with this is I was very certain by the end of this that the coaching staff, the front office, nobody, like Rick Carlisle made a massive mistake within the first 5 games of Luka's rookie season, and he lost Luka. Like, we're talking, Rick Carlisle will probably talk about it one day and admit, and it's like he lost Luka's rookie year, and the Mavericks didn't move on from him. And as a result, I'm telling you all this to say that I don't think the Mavericks ever directly talked with Luka about any of these fucking problems, meaning from weight to his behavior on the court to as simple as setting a screen. I don't think anybody did this stuff. I'm sending you a clip to look at later of his coach with Real Madrid, Pablo Lasso, absolutely tearing him a new one when he was like 17, okay, in the middle of the game for a mistake that he made. Do you know how Luka responded? 3 straight dagger 3-pointers in one of the most cold-blooded videos. Like, if you've not seen this, you're going to walk away from this being like, oh shit. And I tell you all this as a long way of saying, will he do it? I have no idea. But I promise you, JJ Redick will have to ask. We'll have to say, we need you to do this. And that's just the thing that hasn't happened often enough, because there's this concern that he's going to leave. So
that's a great point. It's a great point. And it's something that the Lakers are dealing with right now, because they're trying to get him to sign that extension. And everything that you hear indicates that he's probably going to sign the extension and that he wants to be a Laker long-term and all that stuff. But that is a risk that organizations run, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. The other part of how they're trying to handle that situation is getting him a roster that makes sense. And you talked about the lob threat that they need. He had a few of them there in Dallas when they got to the finals. One such player is Daniel Gafford. Now, there's some thought that because of Cooper Flagg's inevitable arrival, that one of Gafford or Washington will see their role kind of diminish, and maybe Dallas wants to get ahead of that and move them before you run into those issues. There is also this thought that because the Lakers traded, because of the way that things went after the Luka trade, that the Mavericks cannot trade again with the Lakers. I think that's a little overblown. But the Daniel Gafford thing is an interesting one, because Lakers fans love the idea of Daniel Gafford. I watched him play in Dallas when the Lakers played in Dallas, and I was like, holy crap, this dude can move. And then you talk to Dallas fans, and they're like, yeah, but he wants to be a starter. He should probably be a backup. One, what do you think about the notion of Mavs can't trade with the Lakers? Two, what are your thoughts on Gafford as a player?
The Mavs can't trade with the Lakers thing is just objectively funny.
They're the only team in the NBA afraid to trade with the Lakers. Everybody else sees the Lakers.
It looks bad. Like there's some elements of this that we'll get into historically one day where it's just like it just looks bad. There's no other way around it. But I think that if the deal is right, there's something there. Daniel Gafford on the last year of a pretty reasonable contract for a big man, starting level big man. I think he and PJ Washington are the two guys the Mavericks kind of need to consider moving, just because they can't extend both of them, because the Mavericks salary cap is horrendous.
Yeah.
Shout out to Anthony Davis's extension, not even kicking in yet. It starts this next year. But as far as his role as a starter, I think he works where his weaknesses are. The other Lakers actually help round it out. Like, he is a horrid defensive rebounder, like shockingly bad.
That doesn't.
Who's a really good rebounder? Luka Doncic, LeBron James. I think even Reeves is pretty good for his size. Dorian Finney-Smith is a capable rebounder. So if you have other people that can work on it, he's not a great defender in space. Not many bigs are. He really doesn't like to foray out of the paint, but offensively, he is the man. I mean, he challenged Wilt Chamberlain's made field goals in a row record. Yeah. He hit it was 29 of 29 over a 2-game stretch. So we're not talking he hits one basket and goes away. This guy, when he gets going, just because his ability to finish, was special. I mean, he started off last season a little bit rough. He had put on some weight in an attempt to become a stronger player, and he just didn't look right. And then I think he sort of shedded that over the course of the year, and then his play picked up. I really like him. It's just tough because the way this salary cap is built is it's like you're just not allowed to make mistakes, and even you're really not even allowed to make trades. You're just not allowed, the trading for Luka. If the Lakers didn't pull a highway robbery on the Mavericks, let's say that they got what ostensibly most people thought Luka would be worth, which is Austin Reeves, as well as probably that 2031 first round pick. Yeah. Lakers would just be toast. There would be you'd have Luka and LeBron and you wouldn't be able to do anything. And that's just so annoying. It's not fun. Yeah. And so I sort of wonder if they come through and try to fix this retroactively at some point, add some sort of incentive. But I do think he's a guy worth trading for. I saw someone in the chat say, I don't think he's worth a first round pick. I actually think that's correct. Even if it's a really far first round pick.
Especially on the expiring.
On an expiring, right. But it's nobody has picks. Do the Lakers have any second round picks? Second round picks are also, it's a very dicey situation, I think.
Yeah, they have number 55 in this year's draft. Outside of that, no, they do not have second round picks to be able to move. They usually try to acquire a second rounder. Usually they try to buy one. That's even more complicated in the CBA than it was before. So, we'll see to what extent they're able to do that. To me, I think whenever the Lakers get their center, they're going to be moving Rui to get him. And I think between that and maybe Dalton, I think the Lakers are hoping that kind of adds up to first round pick value. So do you have any interest in a partially used Rui Hachimura?
I think he's been maximized with the Lakers in a way that it becomes exceedingly difficult elsewhere. Obviously not a Mavericks podcast, but Lakers fans, if you want to go see who the healthy guards are on the Dallas Mavericks next year, there is one. He is a young man by the name of Brandon Williams, who played at the University of Arizona like 8 years ago. He's good, but he's like the definition of a journeyman G League guard. That's all they have. They don't have any guard. In 2023, when the Mavericks, 2022, when the Mavericks made the Western Conference Finals, they had no bigs. Now all they have is bigs. It's really like, I kid you not, Jason Kidd went on a podcast and alluded to Cooper Flagg playing the 2. I could have died.
Yeah, we can relate, because the Lakers will go from they have too many creators to not enough creators. They don't have enough shooting. Do they have all the shooting?
You have to get your drafts right. Like, you get the superstar, and you have, like, that's why Oklahoma City, to a certain degree, the Pacers, but even the Pacers traded for Halliburton. It's a really maddening situation. Now, I will tell you, and guys, it may not feel this way, Lakers fans, like, Luka gives you a chance in the series. So you really, I don't even think being a top 4 team is necessary for the Lakers. I think you want to make the playoffs and get that week of rest so you don't have to play in the play-in.
Yeah.
You absolutely do that next year, regardless of kind of how, if you get a healthy Luka in the playoffs, you're getting a monster. So,
yeah, I think this is something that I kind of go back and forth on. The biggest thing is these playoffs are just kind of decided by who is healthiest. You know, like, that's, I don't think the league wants us to look at it that way, but it really comes down to the 4 teams that are remaining haven't taken brutal injuries to their top 5-6 players. And that's where I think that rest that you talked about by not playing in the play-in is really important. Anything else, Kirk, that you want to plug, or anything like that you want to talk about before we get you out of here?
Oh, it's funny. Somebody in the chat just pitched a comment that I think we could debate over forever, where Marco says, honestly, as a Laker fan, I would take Flagg over Luka every day. It's such a fascinating conversation, because when you look at like the final 4 teams that are in the playoffs right now, not a single, like, there's of the 4 best players on those teams, not a single one of them is anything other than a guard.
Yeah, I saw people making this point. I still think it's a wing league, and
wing to ball handler league. Yes.
Yeah. And the thing about Luka is that he's a ball handling wing, and those, this is kind of a rarity in that none of those players are still playing in the postseason. I still, until I see otherwise, I still think the wings, whenever I think Cooper will eventually be able to be a pretty decent ball handler too.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll be Luka.
But it's just a different, it's a different tier of player, where Luka's so good at basketball that it makes you a little crazy in your takes, because you're like, oh, well, why can't, again, the season before last, guys, he averaged 34, 10, and 9 and did not win the MVP.
Yeah, anyway, I don't think that's going to age very well.
That's fine. I mean, I'll just kind of end with this and say, I get that he is frustrating, but you will take the frustrating and like, that's why you watch sports over like the mediocrity, which will come like, and that might come anyways, but it's just, he's a special player that I think, I don't want to say he got a wake up call, because again, I can't emphasize this enough. The Mavericks never really talked to him like an adult.
Yeah.
And so I do believe him and Redick have that kind of relationship, where him and Kidd very clearly did not. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does.
Kirk, you host Pod Maverick. You run Mavs Moneyball. I think you guys did a fantastic, phenomenal job this season, given the trade, given all that stuff. I honestly think that, like, the Cooper Flagg, I still will go to my deathbed believing that was part of the trade. But still, I was happy to see that you guys got that top pick in the lottery, because of the work that I know you guys and Locked On Mavericks did, and everybody else. Like, covering this team had to be a mother bleeper this year. So I'm looking forward to your guys' vacation.
Well, and if you want to read, like, we're in silly season now. That's just basically what this is until after
I'm being
summer
aggregated
league.
for saying Jackson Hayes isn't going to be on the Lakers next year.
Well, I had a guy, I have a writer based in India. His name's Sudarshan. He turned in 5,000 words of Anthony Davis based trades that I then broke up into 3 articles. So if you want to see someone like staring at the edge of the abyss, because he's honest about it. He's like, these get increasingly more insane.
Yeah.
And they do, and they're really funny. So I recommend it. But hey, I'm getting a work call, so I should probably go. You have a good day, okay?
Thank you, Kirk. All right, everybody. That is going to do it for this episode of the Lakers Lounge Podcast. Weird schedule today. So we have this show, which I'm going to edit and throw onto the feed. And then we have last night's episode, which was me talking more about the pursuit of centers. So that is already on the feed. And then later tonight, the plan is to talk to Raj after OKC Minnesota or mini, and we will, it is Minnesota. And we will kind of fall back into the usual routine from there. So I also plan on writing something today for Clutch Points, and I'll narrate that for the lowdown tonight. So keep an eye out for that. The best way that you can stay on top of all of this always is to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button. And then if you guys are listening to this via podcast, hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcasts, preferably on Odyssey. But until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. We'll talk to you tomorrow or later, whenever we do.